Okay, so in this video we are going to talk about HDD, generally known as hard disk drive or hard disk. Now, a hard disk drive is a hardware component that stores all your digital content, your documents, pictures, music, videos, programs, application preferences, and even your operating system like Windows, Android, and iOS. And these hard drives can either be internal, inside your device, or external, put outside your device. Everything stored on a hard disk drive is measured in terms of its file size. Documents are generally very small, pictures bigger, music even bigger, videos are the largest of the lot. And a hard drive determines the size of digital files in terms of megabytes, gigabytes, and terabytes. Although to be fair, their megabyte hard disks are not available anymore, and we usually find them in terabytes nowadays. A few things you need to know about HDD is that it actually has this thing called spin speed, or rotations or revolutions per minute, RPM, which is relatively important. The faster a disk platter spins, the faster your computer can find the file you want. And for example, if you have a 7200 RPM hard drive, it is faster than a 5400 RPM hard drive. With external hard drives, you won't notice this difference, but if you use internal hard drive, and if you run a very heavy application, for example games or a very heavy editing app, you notice the difference between these two. You'll notice that a 7200 RPM hard drive actually opens the file quicker than a 5400 RPM hard drive. Now, the maximum capacity available for HDD today, as of August 2020, is 20 terabytes. Although, to be honest, you won't be using that much. For a good price, you'll be able to get a 1 terabyte HDD, and the average you can get, if you're willing to pay more, is a 10 terabyte version. Although to be fair, the maximum that a person would usually use, like the very maximum, is 8 terabytes. So if you're going to buy a 20 terabyte version, I don't think it's really cost efficient. One of the advantages of HDD is it's very cheap per unit of storage because it has fast access and retrieval times compared to other storage devices. Another thing is it tends to be less in price compared to an SSD or a solid state drive. Another thing is the storage capacity. If you have a budget and you have to choose between a HDD and SSD, for example, if you want to pay $100, just an example, you'll find that a HDD will have more storage capacity than a $100 SSD. So if you think that capacity is more important, then you should go for a HDD because it's usually found in 500 gig variants, it's found in 1 terabyte variants, which is actually a lot of storage for an average person. Another advantage about HDD is its availability. Both internal and external hard drives are very easy to find. If you want to get your hands on one, it's really easy. You can just pop into a store and buy one. HDD's lifespan is actually very long. It can last for many years because it's very stable. It doesn't get affected by many things, many external environments. Although it's not advisable to pour water on it, it's not waterproof or water resistant, but generally a lifespan of a HDD is greater. Another thing about it is it's non-volatile, meaning it's stable. So what it means by non-volatile is when you have volatile memory, if there's no power supply, this memory will get deleted. However, with a non-volatile memory, when you store it in a HDD, if there is no power supply, this memory will stay stored in it, and when you need it, you can supply the power and withdraw it. So this makes it very stable, and let's say if your laptop suddenly turns off, you that is exactly why some of your data is still saved even though you didn't click the save button on your document, because your HDD automatically saved it in a stable condition. However, it does have certain disadvantages. One of it is that it can easily be damaged. If you drop a HDD, chances are it cannot be used again. Chances are. It will eventually slow down because it uses mechanical parts. It can break over time. Also, it is slower than an SSD, than a typical SSD, because the speed of a hard drive depends on its revolutions per minute RPM, while an SSD can do it almost instantaneously. Another thing is its form factor. Now, no matter how compact you make a hard disk drive, there's a certain limit to how small you can make it. This means it's not very ideal for portable computing devices such as tablets and smartphones, because if you buy a typical hard disk, it's as big as a smartphone at times. So it's not a very compact option if you're looking for a portability. But if you're going to use it with a laptop, I guess it's quite advisable to use it because it's not a very heavy thing to bring around. So with laptops, it's actually quite good. Another disadvantage about HDD is its power consumption, because to write and read data, HDD constantly relies on power supply. While it doesn't need the power supply to keep this data, it needs it to read and write it. So it constantly rotates a few thousand times per second, and this means it needs power to rotate this disk, to rotate the platter, and it also needs power to move the reading and writing head around so that it can read and write this memory. And this means for devices with limited battery life, it's not a very good option to go with a HDD. And one of the most noticeable disadvantages of HDD, which you will know instantaneously, is the noise. Because since it consists of mechanical parts, the constant rotation of this platter disk, it it emits vibrations, it emits sound. So if you're using a laptop with HDD and you're running a heavy file, you know what I mean, because you can hear it making a racket inside your laptop. While if you're using an SSD, there's essentially no noise at all. Another thing about HDD that you should always be aware is mechanical failure, because it consists of mechanical parts, and the thing about all mechanical devices is that they have a risk of mechanical failure. No matter how much guarantees the company give you, they are always in risk of mechanical failure. They are vulnerable to it. Since they are moving parts, anything can go wrong. Maybe the head can snap off in the middle of an operation, or the disk can get scratched, or the platter can stop rotating. And this makes it quite difficult, because in terms of durability, it is not a very good option, because it's two different things between lifespan and durability. Although HDD has a very long lifespan, it doesn't have a very good durability. So if you're gonna buy a HDD to store your storage, you should consider all of this first. It's a good way to store your memory because it has a very high capacity, and it's also very cheap. However, these are certain things you need to take into account before you buy. There's things called RPM and the capacity, the price, and are you a person who likes to bang your things around? Because that also matters if you don't want your data to get deleted. And that's all for now. I will release a video on SSDs and compare them to HDDs in the future. So if you want to watch that, please subscribe and leave a like.